Hey everybody, my name is Brian, I live up here in North Texas. I've been looking at a lot of great videos on YouTube on how to make moonshine, how to distill flavors like strawberry ice cubes for your lemonade, how to make ethanol to run your jet powered whatever off of. But I don't see anything other than the professional manufacturers on how to actually build a still. So I wanted to build a still in my garage. I looked at a couple of videos. I saw Pontius Pilot's video out there on how to make moonshine. Hats off to you, buddy. You did a great job. And I just kind of modeled my still after what I saw other people do. Then I ran a couple of water and vinegar runs through it to clean it. Thing works great, so I thought I'd show you how to do it. So I started off with this wood frame. I built it around the dimensions of a standard, American propane bottle. So the base here is about 21 inches, and it's about 26 inches long. Now what you don't see back here is the actual end of the frame. This lid is recessed forward a little bit because there's a hidden hinge here so that I can open the lid and I can literally put a tank of propane inside. I've also got a little platform down here. It's also 21 inches wide. It's made of 5 2x4s, so it's about 18 inches long, and it holds a 5-gallon bucket. You'll see the need for that in a second. And then down here at the bottom, you've got a great drawer here that we'll use to actually catch what's being distilled. So for those of you who want a better look at it, I can stand it up for you. It's not that heavy. The whole thing is made out of 2x4s and 4x4s. You can see the 4x4s here at the bottom, right? I use 4x4s because it makes it a little stronger. If I got 5 gallons on here, plus a tank of propane, plus a deep fry burner, I'm talking, 50, 60 pounds or more, 70 pounds. I wanted it to be strong enough to hold it. I also wanted to put caster wheels on it, and I've never been very good at putting caster wheels on a 2x4 because I split the wood out. I'm not very good with a nail. So a 4x4 gives me a nice flat space to put my caster wheels on. And then here's the drawer. Like I said, this is going to slide out and catch what I'm distilling. So put it back down, and you'll see that my propane bottle fits right down inside. I've got a bungee cord here that I hold it down with, so when I'm moving it around the garage, it won't, I won't lose my tank of propane. It won't fall over. Once the lid's down, I put this. Now, as far as where I bought everything, I got everything from either my local home and garden store. I got some stuff at my local super grocery store that's got barbecue stuff and groceries, the whole 9 yards. And then the rest of it I bought offline on that great shopping force that's out there. So this thing was one of the more expensive components. It was $29.99. And basically I set it right on top, and I plug this right into the propane tank, and I'm good to go. Now when I'm not distilling, I can still use the thing to actually cook a turkey, fry some fish, and some french fries or whatever. On top of that, I've got a 6-gallon stainless steel crock pot. Now everything I saw told me that what I needed was copper and stainless steel. I think most people, especially those that are really highfalutin about their moonshine and ethanol and distilled flavors, want everything to be copper. Quite frankly, I can't afford copper on everything. So I bought stainless steel. This thing was, 25 bucks or so. It's got a nice little lid. And when I'm boiling in this, I can get up to 6 gallons. It's a 6-gallon pot. And this is just a little meat thermometer. It's got a metal covered wire that can, go all the way into your oven, stick inside your turkey, or you can lay it down just like so in there, and I can watch the temperature of what I'm cooking. Okay? Now it's important not to submerge the connection between the wire and the top of the metal sensor in the water, but that's what the lid for. The lid keeps it from sliding back and forth. I can set this thing at 150 degrees or 175 degrees, and whatever I'm cooking gets there, it'll set a nice little alarm off for me and let me know, hey, you're there. And usually I've got this thing close enough to my counter over here that I'll stick it to something metal, and it'll stay there with the magnet that's on the back of it. Again, that thing was like 10 bucks at the store. So I'm cooking in here. When I'm done, I'm going to want to distill it, right? So I've got to get it into this jar here. This guy holds 6 gallons. It's just like a Culligan bottle or a Ozarka bottle or whatever, but it's made out of glass, right? This right here is called a thermometer. It's like a thermometer, but it actually measures the temperature of what you're fermenting. I keep a plastic bag on it with one of my daughter's little hair scrunchies here so it doesn't get debris in it when I'm storing it and not using it. So the way that I get my what I'm boiling into here is very simple. I've got a 5-gallon bucket, right? I take that stainless steel pot and I pour it through a nice little mesh here. I've already gone through one of these because they tend to fall apart, I guess, unless you spend a whole bunch of money on them. I pour through there so whatever debris I boiled won't actually get down in that water. I mix my ingredients as per my recipe. I watch it for it to get to the correct temperature. I'm stirring it. I need something to stir it with. This is a stainless steel camping spoon. I'll stir it with this. Now the problem with this is that stainless steel will scratch plastic. So the first time I fermented anything, I had little strips of plastic in it from the inside of this bucket. So I might recommend even a rubber one or one of those hardened silicone ones or something, or just keep it off the side of the inside of your bucket, right? But then I've got my juice in here, and I got to get it in there. And if you've ever tried to pour a 5-gallon bucket into a 2-inch wide opening, you know you're going to make a mess. So I got this siphon. Siphon goes in here, right? And the opening goes in here. Unfortunately, they have to be the other way around. You have to siphon downhill. So, boom, now I'm siphoning downhill. So this, unfortunately, actually is sold in 2 different orders. I didn't know that. The first time I bought just the siphon, I had to buy the plastic hose separately. Why? I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I give this a couple of good tugs, and it'll fill this jar up for me just fine. Okay? So, a number of days go by, and this is fermenting. How do I know when it's done? Well, this is an airlock, okay? This airlock's got a little bung, and I don't know why it's called a bung. I think that's kind of a funny name. But anyway, you stick this down in there. It's got a hole in it that will receive this little nipple. So you fill this up with water. It's got a line that tells you how far to fill it. You put that cap, you put that cap, you stick it in here. Now, my experience with fermenting is as it was fermenting, it's releasing carbon dioxide as the yeast attacks the sugar. Pardon me if my chemistry is wrong, leave it in the comments, I'm cool with that. But as it's fermenting, it's releasing carbon dioxide. Now, if this is capped and it's building pressure because it's releasing carbon dioxide, I'm gonna have a mess on my hands. So this airlock actually lets that carbon dioxide out without letting any bugs or debris or anything in and keeping it neutrally pressurized. So the cool thing is this little thing will sit here and go bloop, bloop, bloop about once a second for the first day or two. When it's done releasing that air, I know I'm fermented and ready to go. These things are also sold separately, but I noticed you can buy them in you know, when you're shopping online, a lot of times they say, oh, you bought this, well, other people bought this, and then you can buy them together. That's exactly what I did. I've heard that these are a little fragile, so I bought a couple of them. I haven't busted one yet, but I'm sure my time is coming. So now I'm ready to actually distill this, right? So I get my stainless steel stock pot back, and I take my chemical and I pour it in there like so. Or I guess you could siphon it back out. Sometimes there will be a little bit of debris in the bottom of that jug. I don't want that debris getting in my stock pot, so I'll make sure it doesn't either by pulling back when I'm done pouring, or I'll siphon it or whatever. To me, it doesn't really matter. But this is where the still comes in, right? I've got to distill this. So when I'm cooking, the chemical that I want is coming out in steam. It boils earlier or at a lower temperature than the water does. And I'm capturing that steam. So I built myself a still. Pretty simple, actually. I needed a special bit to cut through that stainless steel. The first time I tried to cut through that stainless steel, I used a spade bit off the shelf at my local home and garden store, and I actually burned a mark and a hole in my sawhorse because a spade bit won't go through stainless steel. So I got this guy. This guy will cut through stainless steel like nobody's business. So I put a hole in the top, and I put another little hole right here. This is a digital thermometer. All it's doing is measuring the temperature inside the head of this, not the fluid, but the steam, right? So I just turn this on. It'll do Celsius or Fahrenheit, whatever you want. What I used is a wine cork. I drilled a real small hole through the wine cork, and then I stuck the thermometer, or the thermometer through the wine cork. The hole that I drilled in here was the size of the wine cork, not the thermometer. That way the wine cork fits in there, because I felt the wine cork would hold this silicone better than a very thin stainless steel rod. And I was right. That wine cork holds it perfectly. And this maroon looking caulk here is actually 600 degree or up to 600 degree cooking silicone. So I'm not worried about chemicals getting into my brew, because it's safe, because it's meant for cooking. Now, I also put a bead of this around this lower lid. And what this is a stainless steel mixing pot. So what I did is I took my, tape measure and I measured the outside diameter of my stock pot. And then I went looking online for a stainless steel mixing bowl that had the same outer diameter, right? So now I have noticed this is pretty smooth surface, I guess. This comes off quite often. Well, the cooking silicone comes in a big tube, so I've got plenty to go around. So every couple of times I use this thing, I put a new bead of silicone on there. Up here, I've got a male coupling for this copper hose. Now it's important that the inside diameter of your male coupling is the same as the outside diameter of your copper pipe, right? No big deal. It's easy to do at your local home and garden store. Under here, I've got a female receiver, a female coupling, so they screw together on either side of that mixing bowl. So that's a tight fit. I had never soldered before, so I had to learn how. It's actually really easy. I put some appropriate solder. There's a bunch of different kinds of solder out there. This was, I think, the silver solder. But I had to learn how to do it, soldered it together. It works just fine, lo and behold. So I've got my connector to my copper pipe. I've got it all sealed. I've got a digital thermometer. My copper pipe, I bought a flat box of it that was in a big coil. And off the shelf, it was like $35. I think it was the most expensive thing I bought, period. And what it does is it runs down into this tube. I bent all this by hand. I've got delusions of grandeur of making a really nice one day and using the right tools, but this worked just fine. I've got it wrapped around an aluminum or tin vent that goes through your roof for chimney stuff or air ventilation or whatever. And then at the bottom, it's got a little tail that comes out. Right? So I'm going to try this. I've got two different cameras rolling here. There's one. There's the other. So you can see it just coiled up in there. There's a 2x4 in the bottom, and that's just to keep it off the very bottom of the bucket, because I was afraid that the bucket, I might cut it with that tin venting tube. So when all this is ready to go, I've got my brew in here. The way I seal it is with a bunch of these little $2.99 vice grips. I'll clamp them all the way around the thing. And the cool thing is every once in a while I'll see steam coming out of this, and when I do, I just move the vice grips to catch the steam, right? Because I've got low spots and high spots in my silicone. Then I pack this full of ice. Now if you think about it, you're taking steam that's coming down this pipe. Now mind you, you're going to burn the snot out of yourself on this pipe if you touch it when you're distilling. But in here, I pack it full of ice. I usually start with just 2 10-gallon bags or 1 20-gallon bag or pound bag from the local gas station filled with ice. I pack this full of ice, okay? So when that steam hits that ice, it just condenses back into liquid. When it condenses back into liquid, it's going to pour right out of that little copper tail at the bottom, and I'm going to pick it up right here with a mason jar, just like so. So now, I've got silicone, holding this hole together that the pipe's coming out of, right in here, and it doesn't hold, right? So as the steam hits the ice, it's going to melt the ice and turn into water, and I've already got a puddle running out of my garage from the water leaking, so I just keep another bag of ice on hand so I can top it off as needed. And again, if water is already at the temperature that the steam needs to get to in order to condense back to water. So I've even seen one video, a guy that just filled a bucket up full of water and let that do his condensing for him. I've also noticed that as I'm playing with my temperatures, I can adjust the rate at which I actually make or actually distill the fluid, right? So if I crank up the heat, it doesn't increase the temperature because, if water, for example, boils at 212 degrees, you can't make it 500 degrees. It's going to turn to steam. It's going to vaporize. So by increasing the amount of fire that I have coming out of this, it increases the rate at which that water or that fluid is being distilled, is turning into steam. So I can really adjust how much flow I have coming out of this thing by how much heat I put on back here. But long story short, one other thing that you're going to need is one of these guys. It tells me milliliters out here, because a lot of times the first 50, say, milliliters of of what you're distilling isn't going to be safe for you to drink or to use. You can actually probably use it as glass cleaner instead. So I'll catch the first of it here, throw that out, and then I'll catch the rest of it here. Now let's say you do happen to be making a distilled spirit. How do you tell what proof it is? Well, again, it's a simple buy online. You can pour it right into this glass beaker or plastic beaker, and it's a real cheap buy. This is a separate buy, but inside this it looks like a real long, funny looking thermometer. It's got some lead or something here at the bottom. It's filled with glass. It's got a paper scale in here, and it tells you what proof it is. So I take that first pint, or any pint, and I pour it down in my little beaker, and then I drop this in there, and wherever it floats, the top level of that liquid, wherever that floats on this gauge is what proof it is. So I keep all the little pieces together because I'm thinking this is probably a little fragile. And again, everything that I keep with a little plastic baggie over it to keep it from getting debris in it. My garage, a lot of sawdust, fiberglass, or whatever. So that keeps it protected from debris. So that's pretty much it from stem to stern. You've got, again, this base made out of wood. It's heavy, it's on wheels. I can roll it around my garage. 6-gallon stock pot. I got a couple of these glass jerry cans or jugs or whatever you want to call them. Screen to purify it all out. You're going to need a siphon, a couple 5-gallon buckets, a couple of 25-foot length of copper pipe, some way to wrap it around in there. It's got to have a tail that comes out, and it just needs to be in a place where you don't mind making a little bit of a mess. Every single time I've done it, I've had steam spew out and drip down on this wood. Doesn't matter. I've got water leaking out of my 5-gallon bucket running right out the garage door. None of this is a big deal because I'm not in my kitchen making a mess. I'm in my garage having fun. So that's how you build a still in your garage. I hope you enjoy it. Feel free to ask me questions in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer whenever I can. Have a good night, guys.